Welcome to TechSpace. In this video we're going to be going over parameters and how parameters are used in functions. So basically we know how to make a function, and we know that functions can come in different types, as in void that doesn't have a return type, integers, doubles, and all types of different functions that can be declared. So in this one we're going to be doing an int function because we're sort of going to want a return type. So basically we're going to give our function a name. I'm just going to name it something, basic as always. Nothing too complicated because we really don't have a, primary use for this function. We're just, trying to go over how it's going to be used. So we have an int called function2, and as we know from earlier, to call that function into our program, we have to actually use it in main by calling it function2 and using the parameters of any. And in this one we're going to be using parameters because this tutorial is about parameters. So basically what parameters are is they're pre-made variables that are stored into a function in order to define that function to those set of variables. So if I have an integer x inside here, I'm saying that inside this function I have an integer x, and primarily integer x is what this function is going to be built around. Now I can also put a comma and just create more parameters such as integer y, and we're saying now that in this function I'm having two integers and 1x, 1y, and they're going to be doing some type of calculation, or they're going to be this function is going to be completely defined by that integer x and that integer y and what they're doing in this function. So what we're going to be doing with those is we're going to be returning. To do that, we're just going to type return, and what return is a little different than cout, where you're displaying something on the screen or you're giving some value to the user. What we're going to be doing with return is saying, okay, in this function all I want to return is x plus y. Now, just as you do in math, just add the normal plus sign, and we're saying in this function that has parameters, or basic ingredients of integer x and integer y, which I could have named strings or doubles. We're saying integer x and integer y are going to be the main ingredients of this function, and in this function all I want this function to do is to return me the value of x plus the value of y. So when I run this function I should get the value of x and the value of y. Now there is no value for x and y, so I could of course do the thing that we've been doing, which is say create a user output, or create enter a value for x, and then in the line have the user enter something for x. Of course we could do that, and then we could do the same thing for y, enter a value for y, and then have the user enter something for y. Instead of doing that, we're just going to say, okay, return x and x plus y. We're going to call that function, and we have to give these x and y we have to set them equal to something. So inside of our function, I'm just going to say x is equal to 45, y is equal to 46. Now since I already declared them up here as integers, I don't need to declare them as integers down here, because the computer already knows, okay, x is in this function and it has no direct value yet, but down here I see that x is now going to be set equal to 45. Since it's an integer, that's an acceptable value. If it was a double, I could put 45.45272, but it's not a double, so we're just going to use a regular integer value, no decimal places. Same for y. And I'm just going to return x plus y, and then of course run this function in our main function, because all functions have to be ran through main. to be called to the program. So when we run it, as you can see, we have the function not working. Why? Because when I declared these two variables up here, I didn't say, alright, when I declared these two variables up here, that's not how you want to do parameters. So in a function, we have parameter x and y. So they're both integer values. When we call that to our main function, we're going to want to set the values within the parameters of our main function. So I want to say 50 and then, 60. And I don't have to say again, x is equal to 50, x is equal to 60. Since I know that I have function 2, it takes in two parameters, and all I want them parameters to do within that function is return me what x is plus what y is. Now, x and y aren't declared, but when I called the function in my main function, I passed through the value 50 for the first element, and then I passed through the value 60 for the second one. So, if that makes sense. So when I call this, I should get 110, because I'm doing x plus y, and x, which was declared in function 2, is set to 50, and the y is set to 60. So when I run it, we get nothing out on the screen because I made a mistake here. So since we called this to our main function, that's fine. Everything is working perfectly, which we can do by clicking the rebuild, and it says process terminated with status 0, which means that we have no problems, no errors. But we have to say cout again, as always, because without cout, we're not going to get anything on our screen. So we want to now cout that function too, with the same parameters, 50, 60, and then we're just going to end that way. Rebuild and run it, and as you can see, we got 110. So we're going to be doing that next tutorial. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.